I want you to really hear this before I say anything else. I worked 2 jobs until I was 64. That's it. That's the whole story of most of my life. Days I ran a register, nights I cleaned offices, 5 nights a week, wringing out a mop in a dark building after everybody else had gone home to their families. 2 jobs, and I still couldn't get ahead. And right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm sitting on a porch about 1,000 feet up a green mountain on an island in the Philippines, and if I turn my head just a little to the left, I can see the ocean going silver in the afternoon, and out on the horizon, the island of Cebu, floating like a shadow on the water. And the thing that wakes me at 5 most mornings, before the light even comes up over the sea, is one stubborn question. How is this the same life? How did the same woman end up in both places? Because for most of my 65 years, I figured that mop bucket was as high as a woman like me was ever going to get. And I believed it so completely, it almost makes me angry now. So let me back up, because nothing makes sense if I just drop you in the middle. My name's Diane. I grew up outside Buffalo, New York, the kind of place where the plants left and the whole town just held its breath for 30 years. My father worked the line until there wasn't a line, and my mother cleaned houses for the families up on the hill and came home with her hands cracked and red. I wasn't a good student, and I want to be honest about that, because people message me thinking you have to be somebody special to do what I did, and you don't. I started working at 18, and I basically never stopped. For the last long stretch of my life in America, I worked 2 jobs, and I still watch the number in my checkbook go red every single month. That's the part I could never make peace with. I did everything they told you to do, and the math still didn't work. I married Tom when I was 24. He fixed furnaces, and he had this quiet way about him, and the first time he made me laugh so hard, I cried. I think I just decided right then. We had 1 girl, Kelly, and the way our life worked never changed. I ran the register on days and cleaned on nights. He did his service calls, and we passed each other in the driveway like 2 people running a relay that never ended. We were tired. Not dramatic, nobody starving, just tired in this low background way for about 3 decades. And there was this word that ran through our whole marriage. The word someday. Someday, Diane. Let's see a warm ocean, the kind with the blue water in the magazines. I used to clip pictures of beaches out of the magazines in the break room and keep them in a kitchen drawer, and Tom would tease me, planning a trip we'll never take, and I'd say, I'm keeping it ready, and I kept that dream ready my whole life and almost didn't get to spend it. Tom's heart gave out when he was 61, in his sleep, and everyone called that a mercy, but it felt like the floor opening up. There was a phone call in the middle of the night, and then there wasn't a someday anymore. I found those clippings when I cleaned out the house. There's a beach in there that looks exactly, and I mean exactly, like the coast I can see from this porch right now. I've held them up side by side, and I've stopped trying to explain it. After Tom passed, I kept working, both jobs, because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. 62, 63, 64. Kelly was grown and out in Portland with a little one of her own, and the house was enormous and silent. And I'd come home from the night shift and sit at the same kitchen table where my mother used to rub lotion into her cracked hands, and I'd drink coffee in a house with nobody in it. And I figured I'd work till my knees quit, retire on Social Security and almost nothing else, and taper off quiet in the Buffalo cold. Let me tell you what changed, because it's almost embarrassing how small it was. There was a woman named Sandy who used to work the register beside me, retired a couple years back, and she came in one afternoon to say hello, and she had this tan, this ridiculous February tan. And I said, Sandy, where on earth have you been? And she laughed and said, Diane, I live in the Philippines now. And I laughed too, like she'd said the moon. But she sat down and started telling me numbers, and she wasn't bragging. That's the thing. The good ones never sell you. She said her house near the coast ran her about $300. She said a woman came and cleaned and did her laundry and ironed, and she paid her well, and it still came to less than her old cable bill. She said she saw the doctor whenever she wanted because it cost almost nothing. And something happened in my chest I can only call the floor turning into a door. That night I couldn't sleep. I went into the spare room and typed "Cost of Living Philippines for Retired Americans," and my hands were shaking a little, and I read until the sun came up, and I felt something I almost couldn't name. It was hope, and I'd forgotten what it felt like. But hope is not the same as courage, and the courage took a while, because the second the sun went down, the reasonable voices came back, and they sounded like common sense. They sounded like my own father. "You're a cleaning lady from Buffalo. You've never even had a passport. You don't know a soul over there. What happens when you fall, and there's nobody to find you? What would Tom think? What would Kelly think, blowing the little you scraped together on a fool fantasy on the other side of the earth? I lived in that drawer a while, so I'm not talking down to you, I'm talking to the woman I was. And I did the research. Oh, I did the research. A paper notebook because I'm that kind of woman. And I learnt the hard parts too. The Philippines actually has a proper retirement visa, the SRAV they call it, and once you're 50 with a pension over $800 a month, you park a refundable deposit of $15,000 in an accredited bank and pay a small yearly fee, and you get to stay indefinitely. And here's the thing they don't tell you. A foreigner can't own the land. You can own the house or a condo, but never the dirt under it. So most folks rent, and I wrote all of that down honest. But every time I ran the numbers, they came out the same. Over there on my Social Security, I'd live better than I ever had. Over here, I'd be counting change at the register like always. What finally moved me wasn't bravery, it was a Tuesday. An ordinary sleeting Buffalo Tuesday, and I bent down to wring out a mop in that dark office at 11 at night. The same motion I'd done a million times. And something went in my lower back. Just went. And I ended up on the floor, unable to get up for 10 minutes, until the security guard found me. And lying there on tile I'd waxed myself, I had the clearest thought of my life. Very calm. If I die in this building, I gave my whole life to a mop and a register, and neither one will remember me. I told Kelly over a video call, sideways, like a joke, "Your old mum's been looking at the Philippines." And I braced for the worried look. Instead, she got quiet and said, "Mum, when's the last time you sounded excited about anything?" And I didn't have an answer. And then she said the thing that broke me. She said, "I'd rather have a happy mum on a video call than a sad one down the street." So I went and got a passport at 64, never owned one, held that blue book at the kitchen table like it was made of gold, the first document I'd ever had that wasn't a bill. And I went for a scouting month first, because I don't burn the boats on a feeling. Let me tell you the moment I knew. Sandy picked me up from the little airport in Dumaguete. They call it the City of Gentle People. And it's hot and loud, and there are these little motorcycle taxis they call tricycles, buzzing everywhere like a swarm. And I'm jet-lagged and overwhelmed thinking, "What have you done, Diane?" And we stop at a red light, and a little girl on the back of her father's motorbike, maybe 6, looks over at this big, confused, grey American woman and just waves, this enormous grin, like she's known me her whole life, and her father laughs and waves too, at a stranger, at a red light, and something in my chest that had been locked since Tom died came loose. Sandy lived down on the coast, but she took me up the mountain to Valencia, only 15 minutes up, but a whole different world, cooler, greener, banana and mango trees, and we came round a bend, and the whole valley opened up below us down to the sea, and I thought of my mother rubbing lotion into her cracked hands, cleaning houses for the people up on the hill, and here I was on the hill, looking down at everything. Now let me give you the honest life I built, because anybody selling you only sunsets is selling you something. I rent a little 3-bedroom concrete house up here, tile floors, big windows, a porch that runs the whole front, a mango tree in the yard, for the equivalent of about $400 a month. My electric runs a bit more when I use the fans, water's almost nothing, and there's a woman named Maribel who comes 4 mornings a week, and I have to talk about her right, because the title of a thing like this makes it sound like I snapped my fingers and a maid appeared, and it's nothing like that. Maribel's 42, lives down the road with her husband and 3 kids, came to me through Sandy's helper because that's how everything works here, through somebody who knows somebody. The first morning I followed her around trying to help, grabbed the other end of the sheet, and she stopped and said, "Ma'am Diane, this is my job. You are making it harder." And it hit me like a truck, because for 40-odd years I was the one on the other end of that mop, invisible, and I know exactly what it feels like to be treated like you can't be trusted to do the work they're paying you for. So I made myself sit down, one of the hardest things I've done here. I pay her well above the going rate and a bonus at Christmas, and when her youngest needed an operation on his ear, I covered it, and it cost me about one old cable bill, and that money is putting her oldest through the first year of nursing school. The same two-job life I lived, that girl is going to skip, because she'll have a real degree. My whole month, everything in, rent and Maribel and food and my little indulgences, lands around $1,000, and my social security covers it with room to spare. Now the hard parts, straight. The heat in April sits on you like a wet blanket. The rainy season floods the roads. The power goes out. The paperwork tests your soul. And there are typhoons. My second year a big one came through, and I sat in the dark listening to the mango tree groan, thinking, "What have you done, you old fool?" Healthcare surprised me the good way. I had a hernia fixed at a good private hospital down in Dumaguete. The surgeon sat with me 45 minutes, and the whole thing came to under $1,000. But for anything truly major, a lot of folks fly to Cebu or Manila, and you'd be a fool to ignore that at my age. And there's a loneliness that comes in waves. Nights on this beautiful porch as alone as I've ever been. Missing Tom so bad I can't breathe. Because the view doesn't fix that. You bring your grief with you. It just gets to sit somewhere prettier. People ask if I have regrets, and I've got exactly one. It's not that I came, it's that I waited. I want to reach back through time and grab that tired woman on the office floor and shake her and tell her the ocean doesn't check your pay stubs. It doesn't care that you worked 2 jobs and never got ahead. So if you're out there tonight, tired the way I was tired for 30 years, with a head full of reasonable voices telling you to stay put and be grateful. I'm just one woman on a porch, but I'll tell you what nobody told me. You're allowed. You're actually allowed to go. It's going gold over the valley now, the mist coming back up the hills. In a little while, Maribel's husband is going to putter by on his tricycle and honk hello, and Sandy's coming up for some of the adobo I learnt to make, and I'm going to sit here a while longer, in the life I almost talked myself out of. The two-job woman from Buffalo, up on the hill, waking up to ocean views she was told belonged to other people. I carried you here, I tell Tom. We finally got to our someday, and I promise you, whoever you are, you're allowed to go too.